Present.
Commissioner Burbank.
No.
Commissioner Caldwell.
Here.
Commissioner Jody Lee.
Here.
Commissioner McCool.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bradford.
Here.
Mayor Bill.
Here. Can we please stand for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time I'd like to call the city manager.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody taking the time to be here today and to review where we are with the budget itself. As you know, each of you have had an opportunity to look at the budget initially when we put all the information together in this first book, which was here, and we had established a tentative millage rate at that time just for the purposes of putting a budget together. The second book you have today is the new one in front of you, and it has the numbers are revised substantially in some areas, but primarily the millage rate has changed, and that is reflected in this budget. You know, we've got a chance to plan for the future of the city. Part of that plan has to be a solid financial plan with the city, and that's what we're proposing to put forward. There's certain things that I think are worth mentioning as a result of where we're at today. The budget that we have proposed currently is the general fund total budget is $70,721,300. The budget, that was in 22-23. The 23-24, which is the budget is here, is $70,418,300 million. That's a reduction of $303,000 in the total dollar amount of the budget. The millage rate proposed in this budget is 7.35 mils. That is about 30 mils below the millage rate you had last year of 7.65 mils. So we're recommending a budget. The tentative budget be set at that budget rate, which would generate those funds that are associated with the general fund. The total budget is a lot more than that. The total budget in your document today is $151,835,100, and that is reflected with all the changes, including the assessments that we had discussed previously. So that's included in this. Pardon me?
What page are you on?
I'm going off my notes at this point. I'm gonna get with you in the budget itself here in just a minute, but I wanted to hit those highlights so you could see where we are as a result of our work at this point, and then now we can get into the budget itself. So what I've done, the way we have it organized, if you look at the budget document, you have it. You go to the first tab, you'll see there's a letter basically that describes what the contents, the highlight contents of the document. You can read that at your leisure, but it basically says what I have already told you, but it also identifies things that are in the budget. The next page is in the general fund, and that is the capital products associated with the general fund. All the capital elements that are in the general fund are located in that section. If you go to the following page, it's the stormwater capital fund. That shows you the gross number and the identified projects in the stormwater fund. If you go to the next column, it's transportation, and it shows the funds that we have available and what we're proposing to do with those funds as capital projects for the city. If you go to the next page, that's the water and sewer capital products. It shows you the products, the equipment, and the elements that we're heavily involved in. If you know, the Fisher plant There's an upgrade proposed, and that's part of the budget for this year. Eastern upgrade is also in here, trying to convert these plants to AWT. And there's water main replacements and expansions that's also in there. Sewer rehab is a product in this budget, and we have an element that will be the septic tank to sewer that will show up in the budget as we go forward. If you go to the next page, these are projects that are currently budgeted. It's the carry forward of those projects. They'll still be in this budget because some of those projects have not been completed. But as you can see, there's a substantial, there's $3,050,000 set up in that fund. Actually, it's a little more than that. That was associated with the $3,050,000 was associated with the pump station, Lake Barton Evans pump station, and the Teresa Basin modeling. The line item above that is East Normandy ADA transition plan and the Rhode Island extension to Normandy, which is a $10 million project, and so on. Okay, if you go to the next page, that is the roadways that are currently, there's 91 or 96 projects located there. We're going to have other projects that come along this year. The Rhode Island project, which is one that's primarily in the county's hand right now on the west side of I-4. When it comes to the east side, then we'll be plotting how that road will come back through the city and tie into I'm going to call Bear Claw, but it's not Bear Claw. It's Wolfpack, and there's another road there. I can't remember it right now. But we're going to tie it back in so that when it comes across, it won't just dump everybody back into that same part of the city that's got bad traffic. We're going to try to spread it out so it goes further. We're trying to get it over here to the road that's in front of this building, but that's a plan. So we are working on that. If you go to the next page, you'll see a chart that shows the grant funds that are associated with the flooding that the city had and projects that are related to it. There's $10,087,500 in state grants that have been approved, and there's other funds that we're working on in addition to that, but those funds are in this budget, and the projects would include Catalina Boulevard, Elkham Boulevard, the Western Wastewater Treatment Plant, and Fisher Wastewater Treatment Plant, and a Teresa Basin study. So those, we do have funding in there. The only one that didn't get substantial funding from the state was Teresa Basin, and we have funded that out of our budget at this point. That'll be the funding of that would be to do the preliminary evaluation of the system, how it functions, and come back with recommended solutions. So we have that in the budget, and just so you'll know, we've advertised, and there's nothing to keep us from moving forward right now. We've advertised and have a consultant that's currently being reviewed for contract and negotiations. It is the same consultant that did, I think it was some Seminole County and Sanford project. I don't remember the name of it now, but we'll bring it back to you for your consideration once we finish our review. If you get into the next element, this shows you how many employees on page 15. Shows the number of employees and where they're at.
Mr. Chisholm, sorry
Yes,
to
sir.
interrupt you. For the commissioners, if you have questions, just do this. Obviously, we don't have a button up here. So.
I know this is new to you, so I'm just trying to give you the highlights, and then we can get into any specifics you might want. That shows the number of employees and where they're at today. I would tell you that there is we're going to have to do some expansion in some areas, and maybe, I don't think any contraction, but as far as employees, we're shorthanded in some areas as a result of what we're trying to do with projects. We've got to have the staffing available to make sure these projects go forward. And in some cases, we're probably going to have to add staffing. Initially we'll do it with contract where we can, but some of these projects are going to be multi-year projects, and it's going to take somebody to stay on top of it as we go forward. The next page is just something that kind of shows you a little bit about the community. This came from the property appraiser's office. It just shows you those paying taxes. There's basically 5,000 that pay very little, and 20,000 that carry the largest share. These are parcels that carry the largest share of the tax load for the city. The next page is a summary of the budget. It shows the general fund, the stormwater fund, the solid waste fund, transportation fund, special revenue fund, and so on, till you get to the total budget of $151,835,100. That is the budget for the city. The details are contained in this document, and part of it, in the original document you had a very easy summary to look at department-wise, how much money we had in the various categories in that area. This is a detailed area that you can look anywhere in your budget and find answers to what's being funded. Yes, sir.
Can I back up to page 15 for 1 second, please?
15? Okay. Yes, sir.
Snap. Community development and in planning development, we're transferring 4 people out of planning development and putting them into community development.
It's really not changing anything that wasn't already there, I believe. Where is somebody?
I can.
Suzette probably can tell us.
Okay, go ahead.
Suzette?
Yes, sir. So what you had was community development was housed under the planning's budget. They were reporting to me, and Joe was reporting directly to the city manager. So we just realigned them under the areas of responsibility in my shop.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Okay. And we will, just so you know, I think we are probably short in planning when it comes to staffing. That's one of the areas. Engineering is another I'm concerned about in our water wastewater program. But we haven't gotten down to identifying exactly what we want to do there.
Can I ask a question as well?
Yes.
So as far as planning, development, building, permitting, staff-wise, with all of the new businesses and development that's coming into the city, where are we at? Does this include any new staff that we may need in that area?
I don't think we've totally allocated for that staffing. That's what I was just explaining. We haven't got to that point.
Okay, that's the staff you're talking about.
Yeah.
And software upgrades?
Right.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody? Not yet. Okay. All right. So that's your budget. And if you get down, the proposed, the departments all shows on that next page. Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask, are these microphones on? They're live, they don't go off, right?
Pardon?
The microphones, they stay on live, they don't go off?
I think mine's live. You can turn it off in front if you want.
No.
The gas log. Careful, dude.
Okay. Okay.
Be careful out there, y'all.
Yeah, be careful what you say, I guess.
Everybody look at me.
I can't imagine why. Anyhow, the other pages as you go through here, everything you want to know that's in our budget is available. We have fire truck, new fire truck. We have one that's already in this budget that's ordered. In this proposed budget is another new fire truck to replace the one that's existing, and a transport vehicle that's in this budget also. These are all replacements. They're not expansions of service or responses. At the same time, we have Caterpillars and a couple other specific pieces of equipment that they use in traffic and public works that's in this budget. These are substantial investments on the part of the city. I'm sorry. I didn't see you,
It's
sir.
an easy one. So
Yes, sir.
You just said this budget is less than it was last year.
Yes, sir.
You're proposing a millage rate decrease,
Right.
and yet you're going to do more next year with less money. I hate to say it, but that's,
Plus of our money.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, it's, because we keep hearing everybody talking about taxes going up, taxes going up. So you're lowering the city taxes, not county taxes, where everybody's getting confused because county's going up. So you have a budget that's lowering our taxes for city, but you're going to be doing twice as much, getting more equipment for different departments, more road work, and our city taxes are going down.
That's correct.
Okay, that's, I just, make sure that someone heard something, because you're getting a lot more
Yeah, there's-
done than we have been in the past for
Well,
less money.
I can't speak to the past, but I can speak to our ability to move forward now. And we have the resources to do these things, and we're planning to use them. We're not trying to be the bank for anybody to not spend money, but we're trying to wisely put money forward into projects that may make a big difference in our community. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to in this forum. And so you could ask those questions, and we do get it out that there's nothing hidden, and that's why all the documentation, I want to be sure you have the documentation. In case somebody asks, you can pull it up. And if you can't find what you're looking for, let us know. We'll get the answer for you. But we do have a very aggressive program. I can tell you there's probably more cost in some projects than what we have here, and we will address those as we go through, and we will be looking for more grant funds as we proceed. And I can tell you there are more funds out there, and we are going to stay on top of them. At the same time, we got to make good of the investments we got in our community and the things that we need to address. And the very top of my list is I came here during the hurricane, so I saw the worst of what we had to deal with, and that's top on our list to solve some of those problems and issues, and they're reflected in the grant funds we got. They're reflected in this budget. There's money in the budget, substantial money in this budget to address flooding. Not only just the Teresa Basin, but all the basins that are within the jurisdiction of the city. We're going to look at all of them, and the first thing is you got to identify what the problem is and look for the solution. Once you get the solution, then you can go fix it. And that is our approach, and that's what we're doing today.
Vice Mayor, you just have a question?
No, I think I found it. I wanted to just bring up that I wanted to see us have events this year for Memorial Day, Labor Day, and Juneteenth. And I did see that you guys included that in the budget.
We have that in the budget. And one other
Those are big things that, like, we've been going to Orange City, just as an FYI, for years. And like when we went to Orange City this year, it was 3/4 Deltona residents. And all I heard was, where's Deltona? Why are we doing this? Well, because it hasn't been budgeted. So we said, okay, we'll make a point to see if we can. So you guys, thank you.
These are going to be our events, and we have it funded, and we won't have to, look for somebody in the end to try to do it for us.
May I say something?
Well, then we have Commissioner McCool first, and then we'll call you.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry.
Well, it's almost done. I was just going to say one more thing.
Oh, okay.
And this budget, just as, because I know we have a few that haven't been on here budget-wise, we had a crash from 2008, and finance will can double check on this. From 2008 to now, we are still not back to the budget level that we were in 2008. Is that
Taxable value.
taxable value? Yeah. So our taxable value is still 13 years later, we're still not at that level we were in 2008 before the crash.
Do you have the documents there?
I do. It's the, I have the, as of 2022, I didn't bring the taxable value that the property appraiser gave us as of July 1st, because I didn't know she was going to ask this question.
Sorry.
But that's okay. But she's correct. I mean, our taxable value was $3.7 billion in 2008, and as of our end of fiscal year 2022, it was $3.2 billion. So we have not recouped all that value that it was at the time of the market.
Could you state that again?
I'm sorry?
I think you did very
Oh, this is
Repeat that.
the taxable value from the property appraiser.
Right.
In 2008, which was prior to the crash, I was 3.77 billion in Deltona's taxable value. As of 2022, it was 3.2 billion. So we haven't, in all those years, we have not gained
We're not
that
back
back. So I mean, that's just the effect on our revenues.
Right.
It should be noted in 2008, values were grossly overrated.
They were grossly overrated, but even now, they said like last year, it was a seller's market, right? And if we go down, like I've heard comments and I'm somewhere bringing it up, oh, why don't we go to rollback? Why don't we go to rollback? We go to a rollback rate, you're looking at us being down and we're only allowed to go up each year 3%. So therefore, you hit those property values, we hit a crash again, you're looking at another 15 years to go back. You know, we can't, and then you're looking at major cuts. You're looking at nothing being done, nothing happening. So I think this is a great rate. I mean, I'm happy to see the last book that you gave me said 7.45. Thank you for wanting to bring it down, because the last couple of years, everybody's wanting to take it up, so I'm happy to see this coming down.
We think we got a manageable budget, and if you look at the projects, it's a pretty aggressive approach to tackle these projects. And so we have, as we go forward, we'll have to look and see where we have additional funding, I'm sure, for some of the projects, because they're very expensive. But we have planned to keep going in a direction that solves the issues for the city, so it isn't a long-term problem for our community.
Can we throw Christmas in July in as well? Is there any money left of that? Well, I mean, it's been being forked by different local groups and organizations, and the city's been advertising it. So, and I know a lot of other cities are doing it as well.
Why don't
So
we just-
I don't know if that's something we can do or not.
We can. We'll put,
Does everybody have a problem with Christmas in July?
I got it.
What's your problem, Mr. Jody Lee, Commissioner Jody Lee?
I got a lot of problems, but, well, we do have a thing coming up in August 26th for a street fair in Deltona Boulevard, don't forget. That's coming up in August
So we know,
26th.
what's your problem with Santa Claus?
Nothing, I didn't say that. Anyway,
okay. Just something you guys can present.
okay, we'll argue about this later, but I'm still astounded on this.
Guys, let's go back to Commissioner Vila Vasquez, and then Commissioner McCool is next, and then Commissioner Jody Lee will.
Thank you, appreciate that. I just want to point out that for the past 2 years, we have not raised the millage rate. It's always been the same. It didn't go down, but it didn't go up either.
No,
It went down last
it
year.
went down last year.
Oh, okay.
It was
It went down last
7.8,
year, but
and
it
then it was
hasn't gone up.
7.65 last year.
Just thank you, yes. And going back to your thing about comment about the events, I know I've had conversations with Mark, with the permission of the city manager, and a lot of that stuff is going to come back to the city, because we had it before.
Why don't we do this on events? Because I'll be honest with you, I think it's a very significant effort that the city should put forward, because it provides opportunity for the community to come together. And we are the largest corporation in our city right now, and we can provide the kind of assistance to help make that happen. So if you can list those events that we ought to consider and get them back to us, then we'll put them in our next agenda and get them approved.
Mark has my list.
We have a planning session with the community, right?
Pardon me?
We're going to be having a planning session with the community coming up, right?
Yes, you got one on the 24th. You have a budget workshop on the 24th.
No, I thought, part of our, this year, where we having planning sessions with the community to go over strategic plan, and I thought we were having some different meetings this year.
It may have,
Okay.
maybe something y'all had in mind. I didn't know about it, but I vote for whatever.
Mr. Chisholm, please.
Commissioner McCool, and Commissioner Jody Lee, and then
Thank you.
Two things of note for me. Number one is that we are also, I want us to keep in mind that we're going to have about 50,000 surplus. And when I say surplus, this is a caveat. The past few years, we've been putting that money towards the bridge and to land. We have fulfilled our $250,000 pledge to them. So this year, we should have $50,000 that we were using so I just want to make sure that that's noted. To do something good, I believe that the intent behind that $50,000 was to do good things for our community, and so I would like to see that $50,000 placed in good stewardship towards our community, whatever that is, and whether that is dividing amongst nonprofits in our area, but that money should still be used for the good of the community, whatever that looks like,
I think
right?
that was removed last year.
Pardon me?
That was removed last year.
It was, but the thing is, we have the money, and the intent behind it was to do good things for the community, so I just want to see where that gets earmarked. The next thing is that I have been jumping up and down, begging, screaming, crying about Normandy Boulevard being resurfaced from Farrington Drive to Saxon Boulevard, where it comes out there by Fort Smith going the back way. It is horrible. And it is horrible to the fact that I will not ride my motorcycle down that because it is a danger. And I want to express that in the loudest terms possible, because I've told my district I'm working on that. I understand that there was going to be some more issues or some more structural whatever that needed to be addressed, but we have been living with that now for the past 5 years, and I think enough is enough. There's a danger for ER vehicles and just people driving that every day. You go down Normandy Boulevard from Saxon Boulevard, coming down, crossing Deltona Boulevard, you go through all of that, and all of that is nice new pavement. You get at Farrington Drive after you cross Providence Boulevard, and it's a train wreck there. So I would like that re-looked at. I would like it reanalyzed as far as getting resurfaced and something brought back to me that I can take back to my district that they can swallow.
So it's north of Normandy, right?
Correct.
Or south Normandy?
No, it's South Normandy Boulevard.
Yeah.
Is it south or east?
It's going towards.
It's
if you're-
east.
Yeah. Going towards Fort Smith.
I was on it the other day, so I know exactly what you're talking about, and I did mention it to the Public Works Director back there somewhere. Where did he go? You're hiding. Stand up, Glenn. So Glenn's put it on his list already, and it is funded in this project.
Okay, because I'm not seeing Normandy Boulevard on here, and that's why I brought it up.
It's not on this written list, but it is on his list.
Yes. You got witnesses now.
So can I follow up really quick on Dana's, on that specific question?
Sure.
I was told, because I know, I'm pretty sure every single commissioner out there has brought this up, right? We kept being told that that whole road we can't resurface, so we literally need to re-engineer that road. Is that what the holdup is?
North Normandy or east Normandy?
Yeah, you're talking about the section between Barrington and Saxon Boulevard.
Where you lose your transition.
We're going to have our paving contractor, P&S Paving, they're coming in to do resurfacing. We're going to have them go through that section, look at it, and see if it's structurally, that if resurfacing it, milling and resurfacing will fix the problem, or do we need to go back in and do some other sub-base work? So that's what they're going to be charged with when they come in.
And Glenn, what time frame are we looking at?
Right now, we just did, the purchase order has been issued. We've been working with them to get them mobilized and to go through the priority list. So we're hoping they're going to be mobilized in the next 2 to 3 weeks and be getting started.
Well, just so you'll know, there is funds in this budget for, if we have to rebuild that road for that section, we can rebuild it.
So that's what I'm going to report back to my residents, because when people get peeved at me on social media, they tell me, go fix Normandy. That's the euphemism, go fix Normandy. I think we can take it from there. Next, I want us to be thinking about this also. It was announced at the last TPO meeting that the federal funding structure will change, and that Deltona, because of our population, our demographics, that is going to have TPO qualify for more funding because of Deltona's population. So I want everybody that has anything to do with budget at any time that's our money. I know that we share it with TPO and the other cities, but West Volusia, Deltona has been last on the list for a very long time, but I think that the TPO, they understand the need for Deltona now, and I want to keep that money with us. So I want every time we have an interaction with the TPO to remind that we would like our fair share, because we're big on proportionate share here in Deltona, so I would like our share of that. So I want everybody to keep that in mind also.
If I could just add to Dana's comment, I was extremely proud to be sitting in the crowd. And the moment the person from Flagler County said, we can redistribute that amongst both counties, Dana, without skipping a beat, said, no, we need the money. It's our money.
It's our money.
So,
Great. Well, the TPO is the conduit and is part of the process. You have to get them on certain lists. And right now, I know that Rhode Island is on the list. In fact, Rhode Island is designed up to I-4, I believe. So I had meetings with the county and the state. They're looking at the interchange. They may make a change to interchange at that location. They don't know if it qualifies right now, but they're investigating it. But we're going to move, the city is going to move forward from, I think that's Normandy there, right? From Normandy to plan how we're going to get over to Wolfpack, and then eventually over here to Providence, some way to get to Providence from over there, so that we can truly move that traffic and not dump it back out into the problem areas that we have over there.
And it is my hope that in that area, because it is such a high-profile area, that we stay on making sure that anyone building that area is a partner with us and understanding that vision that we have, because that was the initial vision of what the DRI wanted, and so in moving away from that model, I just want us to be, and I know that we are, with who we have in leadership now, I know that we're cognizant of that.
Just know that we're in the planning of that right now.
Yeah.
We've met with some developers, and we've met with the county, and we're not through, we're really just beginning. But we do have the money in place to make it happen.
Last thing for my constituency listening that will hear this, I want it understood this again. The Deltona is a good steward of the tax money that you pay in, and for my constituency, we're very, very measured about the budgetary items that are in here. And when we hear talk, or when I hear talk, that why is Deltona wasting the money that we give them? I need for it to be said again and again that please remember this, that 5,280 parcels in the city of Deltona is paying less than 500, or is paying zero taxes. 5,280. That is not saying anything about anyone not paying taxes, because whoever has these breaks deserve them for whatever, for our veterans, for our teachers, for retired, whatever. It is deserved. Deltona is built on that model, so it is deserved. Paying between 1 cent and $500, let's take this in, 16,517, which is 38.92% of our population in Deltona are only paying that tax. The rest of our tax base, 20,646, 48%, which is less than 50% of our population, is paying the bulk amount of taxes due. So when we try to levy the playing field, whether it be through assessment or whatever it is, if we don't go to rollback, or if we don't do that, it's not because we're not good stewards of the money. It's because we're trying to balance services and needs with the amount of money that we get in. Because the person that is paying this amount of taxes has a totally different view of the city and what the city's doing than the people that are paying fewer taxes. It just is, by virtue of what that is. So for my residents, we are being very good stewards of your money, but I'm not cutting any park services money, because that's where we take our children to play. It's the only free place that people have to go and walk and have recreation. I'm not cutting it there. It's necessary for our city. So is emergency, public safety. Not cutting anything there, because public safety is important. So when we are doing these things like the city manager is doing and lowering the millage and trying to give us a small break, but then we get questioned about the special assessment, everybody has to pitch in. The flooding affects the whole city of Deltona. So that proportionate share for everybody has to kick in. It's painful, but as a community, it's what is necessary and what we have to do. So I want them to understand understand what we're dealing with. You saw not only the tax roll going down, right, and trying to rebound after all of that, but if we go down on the millage rate, it puts us further behind than what we are right now. So know your demographics when we're talking and being critical of the way that we're spending money. Please understand and please know the demographics that you're talking about when you do that. So I wanted to make that clear from my constituency because I've been asked about it, and I'm on record saying this. We are good stewards of the money, just don't have a lot of it. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, I'm done.
Commissioner Jody Lee, and then we'll go to Commissioner Burbank.
Hell, I forgot what I was going to say. That's all. You say your constituents, and I agree with you, but the difference is all our constituents, it's not your district, my district, we vote for things that affect everybody in the city. So guess what? I'm going for everybody in the city. I'm still, I don't know if this is on live or what, but it still amazes me that you have a surplus for this next year's budget. You are lowering the millage rate. All department heads, I assume, are happy with what they're getting. You're doing all these projects, and our city taxes are going down. I mean, is anybody paying attention to this? Because this is something new. We're doing 3 times the amount of projects that have been done in a year's time in the past. And things are going backward, going down, when everything else in the whole country is going up. So it just baffles me. I'm sure I'll find some stuff in here I can pick at you about later when I got glasses where I could see everything, but I have to give you all, I don't know why the commission that was here before the last election didn't find you a few years earlier to fix all this stuff, but I guess that's their fault. But it just amazes me that you're doing all this with less than what they've had. And I understand there's some more buildings and taxes that are going to be coming into the city. I get that, but I'll give you all the credit in the world with you, finance department, doing this, in public works, parks and recs, everybody coming together, coming up with a budget that's less money, lowering our city taxes, not county taxes, city taxes. It's amazing with everything else in the world going up, you're lowering. I'll give you all the credit in the world.
Commissioner Burbank, and then Vice Mayor Bradford.
You amaze me, Jody Lee. You went from, he's doing twice as much with less, doing 3 times as much with less. I remember that. Just kidding. Being forgetful, that's my job. On a lighter note, Mr. Chisholm, I couldn't agree more with the community building, the events that we need to stage, and we've all been suffering from a COVID coma. We're coming out of it. We're still trying to figure out what the new world looks like, and you got a bunch of new commissioners that don't know what the world used to look like. So I'm going to say thank you for that, all of that. And I have been dropping a bug in his area, on a fairly regular basis. If it's not on the list, we would go back to having volunteer appreciation lunches.
Okay.
It's on the radar now.
Let's put it on our list, make sure we got it.
It's on his list.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Just so to go back to the past a little bit, we had some projects that we're working through, and one is the 4B project. It's had an impact on the park and the community center, and we have not forgot that project, and we have not abandoned our commitment to be good stewards of the park in that area, and we intend to bring that community center back. It's pretty close right now, and the park area has to be restored, and we will be talking to each of you about that as we go forward with the park itself. Now, the boat ramp, which is of high importance to those who fish, it's not ready to be used right now. It will be restored so it can be used. But at the same time, we're going to improve the park area that's on the lake itself. And we have already put in some piling that'll assist us in getting to solutions over there. But all that's going to be part of an overall plan for that park, and we hope to bring it really back to maybe beyond what it was before. So keep that in mind, and we aren't through with it. Other questions right now, but I got some other things I want to talk about. So.
We got Vice Mayor Bradford, then we can move forward.
Okay.
Just real quick, because I'm trying to see it and go through stuff as you're talking. Who's where's our grants at? Do we have a list of grants? Who's doing our grants and projects and economic development?
Right now,
Mr. Scott?
Rick and Kim are going to be the two that work on that. Kim is primarily doing the grant stuff. Rick has done economic development for years and is very familiar with it and is going to be holding it up right now until we decide how we're going to handle that.
Okay, because my question is we have gone over a year with zero in for any ECHO grants, which we pulled some grants last year that we probably could have had projects done this year that we already have money for. So to be sitting here, just like we talked the other day, and I don't know if the trails, the crossings, any of this can go under ECO, but we need it. You know, we need to get back to utilizing those ECHO grants. We used to have something in ECHO grant and something ready for backup prior to. And then I think last year during the budget, somebody took it out.
Well, the storm really hurt us.
No, it's taken out before that.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. I know that the storm, we had a project that was funded through that ECHO grant, and then we had to give the money back or take the project out of the grant because the storm really destroyed the area that was going to be a part of that park
And we
improvement.
would have had to put, the way that one worked was, they gave us a number and then we had to match it.
Right,
And it was going to be a loss if we kept it, so we returned it.
Yeah, I thought that was prior to the storm. So the question is, like we had brought up, or no, the CRA brought up at a meeting Monday night about the area over at Saxon and Normandy. And, you know, having the crossing over there. I don't know if that's something we can put in. You know, we also brought up possibly the city purchasing that corner as well.
I'm in the process of purchasing that corner.
Perfect.
This budget allows us to do that.
Yeah, we spoke about that. And I know that one of the things that we were discussing with the CIA project, and I know that we have new sidewalks there now, but I think that one of the things we brought up was when you're coming east on Saxon and you're making a right on Normandy, it's very narrow. And that sidewalk seems to take up a lot of the street. I know when I come at night and I'm making that right, I feel like I'm going into the car that's on the other side of me. So I don't know, we can take a look at that again.
Whiting, you're talking about Saxon being narrow?
Saxon and Normandy, across the street from Walgreens.
It's that lot across from where we're talking about purchasing maybe those two lots
that
there.
lot.
But she's talking about the right-hand turn
That's what we're
there.
talking about buying, is that
Yeah.
whole lot there.
No, but I'm not talking about.
She's talking about the right side.
Coming from Orange City down to,
Oh, on the other side?
Across the street from Walgreens, across the street from the lot. So if it's dark, in the daytime it's not too bad, but at night, when it's dark, and you're making that right onto Normandy, if the cars are going this way, you're going that way, it looks like you're going into the other cars, but it's very narrow, that road.
The turning lane is narrow. When you turn right, it's too narrow because you're so close to the sidewalk.
That sidewalk is like.
Yeah, it really is. Because, and that house is right there.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I understand we own that house, so I don't know.
we own the house.
We own the lot where that sign is, across from.
No, we do own the house across from the Walgreens. Coming up Normandy on the left there, we own that. But the question was crosswalks. Do we actually have a crosswalk there now?
Yes.
I don't know.
We do.
We do? Okay.
All right, we will study the area,
Thank you.
a safety study, whether it's lighting or widening the road or whatever we
I think that
need
lighting
to
was
do.
taken care of. Am I right? Yes, ma'am. The lighting on that corner there.
Okay, but I wasn't sure if they took care of the lighting crosswalk
We'll put it on our list, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
and echo.
That's the already.
All right.
Ms. Kim, are you writing the grants too and following them, or just finding them and
She
passing
does.
them to different departments?
We're in the process of developing a grants department and looking at a system called eCivics. In order to manage multi-million-dollar grants, not only search and seek which ones are appropriate for respective projects, you have to have a system that allows you to manage the funding for the entire grant cycle. So we are looking at e-civics because of Florida League of Cities actually has a subsidized service contract with this company, and there's 20 other cities in the state of Florida that are using this system. So we're looking at different areas that we need to gain in order to be able to manage multi-million-dollar grants for long-term, to be able to grow our portfolio to its full potential. So we're kind of doing that in tandem. So the grants and state appropriations that I've been able to secure with the support of our city staff has been by virtue of what I've been able to acquire in the last 6 months. So with the federal FEMA disaster recovery coordination that's going on the ground, I've been attending workshops and having various site visits here in the city. We have over 5 federal agencies that are currently engaging in discussions with us to be able to provide their technical assistance and expertise as it relates to their resources. So for example, with Lakeshore, we have a program right now that we're requesting called Resiliency to Partnership. And what that program is the EPA will come down with all of their troops, their architects, their engineers, and for free, they will design and reimagine any area that you have, give you the conceptual design plans, and give you the roadmap for the grants. So the only reason that we're able to accept that type of assistance is by virtue of the disaster recovery coordination that's going on. And so I hope with the permission of Mr. Chisholm to be able to report out to the commission at an appropriate time on all of we've secured about 5 federal programs right now.
So so the other grants, are you writing them and following them? You just finding different things?
Right now,
are you actually writing grants and chasing them?
Right now, I am finding them, and I'm in the process of writing certain ones. Okay? So, for example, where the commission was asked about grant management services that related to Alcam Boulevard, Catalina Boulevard, and one of our elevation projects. The reason why we acquired a consultant to do that was based on recommendations. That grant is very technical in nature to actually get approved. So because of the CCNA that we had on staff, we were able to get that information and apply it. So when it comes to us getting the actual written grant that's required to go for funding for those 3 projects, it will be Pegasus that writes it and manages it, and the grant will pay for their services. So the city won't incur any cost in them writing and managing that grant. And it was in our best interest to do that because we don't have the technical expertise or capacity to manage those 3 projects. So at a 75-25 split, FEMA is going to pay for Alcam Boulevard, which is estimated right now at $6 million. It will only be 1.5 out of the city's money. In addition to Catalina, that's at $2.25 million. It will only cost us potentially $562,000 for that project.
Okay, so that tells you she is doing grants. And she's done a great job for bringing grants into the city at this point. And we still have opportunities, and we're going to follow those opportunities too. Any other questions at this point? Pardon?
More questions from me.
Okay. What I want to do then, the budget, I don't really have anything else I need to tell you about the budget except review it, and if you have any questions about it specifically, get back to me. I'll be happy to answer them. But I can tell you this is our financial plan for moving forward. And the next step for all of us is how do we begin looking forward, not just looking behind and looking at existing problems. Where are we going to go forward? What is the vision of the community? What's the vision of the commission? And going forward, I can tell you from a staffing point, and some of this is driven because of regulatory problems, but our effort is going to be looking to the east of 415, and developing the resources for water and wastewater services, and primarily looking for fresh water service for drinking water for the community, and withdraw the time look at how, in doing that, we should have an opportunity to have additional resources and capacity, but we also should have an opportunity to expand, the city as it relates to those areas. So keep that in mind, and certainly we'll be bringing more information to you about how we would grow and how we would plan as we move to the east. The west, around the area that has commercial activity right now, and the area of Rhode Island from a standpoint of moving the transportation system and improving it, is also going to include zoning and rezoning properties to enhance the commercial viability of those properties once you put the systems in that will open up that part of the city. I would be happy to entertain any other questions you have or any vision you have of where you want us to go. And,
I have a quick question, Mr. Chisholm. Are we going to be doing any workshops where the commission can come together as a whole where we have more time to actually talk about, like, the direction? For example, we have a vice mayor who has experience. He's been on the dais now for a while. And I'd love for us to come together as a commission and talk about our vision as a whole, right? Each of us have our own ideas, but if we can come together and maybe edit some of our thoughts of where we want to go, we can take the advantage of some that have been on this dais for a while, Vila Vasquez, Bradford, McCool, and kind of help define where we want to head or lead our city to. I think that's going to be extremely beneficial to bringing the commission together. Now, we're not going to agree on everything, right? But that's what these workshops should be for, is so we can find a common denominator and say, okay, let's start focusing on all these areas or all these places where we want to go from point A to point B.
I agree 100%. I don't see any reason not to. In fact, this whole process here is for that very part of that reason. We can put a budget together. We can identify the issues that need to be solved. But some of the things we need to resolve is where we're going to go in the future. Which what's your vision for the future? Where would you like to see us concentrate? And what you've suggested is absolutely something we can do.
So we did a strategic plan 2 years ago. And during the strategic plan, that we just thought it was a Saturday morning, all the commissioners sat down, we went through the strategic plan, and I believe a new strategic plan was done up. It was my understanding that the strategic plan is what you and staff base everything you're doing off of. And in that strategic plan, I believe that was under Mr. Peters, and there was a lot of like, okay, we're not having a downtown. We're going to have 4 different zones at all the entrances to the city. And I believe, from what I'm seeing, and this is why, I'm bringing it up, is there's been a lot of different talks of many different ideas with new commissioners up here. I don't know how often we have to do the strategic plan, but being that there is a whole new commission, I totally agree that, it's time we did it, because you guys, what are you doing? If you're going by the old strategic plan, but you got a whole new commission and the city's wanting something new, how often do we do that? And can we also work on getting community input as well?
Yeah, typically what you would do is have a strategic planning meeting where, as a group, we talk about the various things that you've discussed, and then have community meetings as a result of that plan that you develop, and get input from the community as you try to move forward. So it's a series of workshops after you come up with your plan.
I'm good with that.
Commissioner Vila Vasquez, and then we have Commissioner McCool.
Thank you. So, going back to the strategic planning, and I agree with the mayor's suggestion, but I also think that we have to finish projects before we can start making, like we always say, and we come up with these plans, and then we have new people, and they push those plans to the side, and then we got new plans. And then we have no new commissioners, and those plans are pushed to the side, and then we have more new plans. So I think that no matter what commissioners come up with plans, I think those plans should be, continue to be looked at and finalized and finished, right? Because I'm telling you, I've been here, this is my 5th year, and for 5 years, I've been working on my CRA project. And the only thing I've gotten out of it in 5 years is new sidewalks. So I think we need to, I know everybody has different ideas of what they want, but if we come up with a project and then all the commissioners, whether it's be this commissioners or the prior commissioners, you know, I can't change the color of my walls every time I have a family member come and say, I don't like that color, change it to green. Okay, change it to green. And she comes and says, oh, I don't like green, change it to blue. We can't do that. We got to stick to a project that was agreed on and finalize it. We talked about my CRA project on Deltona Boulevard, Normandy Boulevard. We talked about sewer system, and we're still talking about sewer 5 years later. And I think the one that has gone the furthest to it was Mr. Chisholm, to the point that he finds out that we have sewers in Deltona Boulevard. So it took 5 years for somebody to find that out, please. Well, you weren't here. But, you know, this is what I'm saying. So as long as we keep pushing these projects and changing these projects, we're never going to bring Deltona to where we all would like to see it. So if we all agree to meet and look at strategic planning, and we like something, let our staff finish it. Let our staff continue it, because it's not easy, it's not fair to our staff either. We keep throwing things at them. And they start it, and they leave it, go to this one. They leave this one, they start this one. Leave that one and go to this one. It's not fair for them either. So let's start a project and let's finish it. If it's the project that everyone decided and approved it, let me say that, you know, we like it. The project for the CRA, we had 2 meetings with residents. They loved it, to the point where the former owners of the plaza were giving us property to make that strip like benches and sitting area. It was denied later on by the former commissioners, when the citizens of that area loved the idea. Again, you know, if we pick a project and everybody likes it, let's finish it. Let's start it and finish it. I mean, I'm tired of it.
Plans are very dynamic, and they change and they get modified, and they get implemented in some cases. And as you get in the process, you change it to see what the needs are at that point. So, but we ought to be reviewing where we are with the strategic plan every year. And quite honestly, I haven't seen that plan, but I did have somebody. Where's my staff? I had somebody bring me a copy of it this past week, and I'm going to take a look at it. But we probably need to sit together as a group and look at what is in that plan. I can tell you for you, and we've talked, and we're not changing or stopping the septic to sewer project that we're working on in that area. We're going to continue that, and it takes time. It will take time to do it because it's design work, and it's a lot of work has to be done technically to get it moving. But once you start moving, you'll see it go. It should go very rapidly. But I think that's a good approach. Maybe that's where we start. We take the existing plan and see, okay, where is it? What's done, and then what do you want to keep? What do you want to change? Because that's typically what you would do annually.
Before we get to Commissioner McCool, to Commissioner Vila Vasquez's point, and I know that the Commissioner and I there's a lot of things we don't agree on, but this is something we do agree on, because, I mean, I've been in office 7-8 months, whatever it is, and I understand that there's stuff that she's been asking for since I know, right? And it's true, it's 100% factual. If whatever we end up doing, right, whether it's a combination of visions or whatever it is, I feel a little bit more confident with the city manager we have currently that if we're going to get it started, let's get it done. Because when our residents come, and for some it might seem like they're bickering or they're complaining, but they have a point that no one can deny. We're very good as a city on hiring consultants and not following through. Where we drop the balls, where we don't follow through. There is no reason why, and you and I have had this conversation, why we're not going to the county, for example, when we discussed the septic to sewer from low water all the way to where that former gas station that was demolished there. That should have been done a long time ago. We should have gone after the county so they can put in part of their CRA funds to help us instead of doing this big loop around. No, they should be a partner with us because that's one of their roads. But we need to start seeing things get done. And I'm more confident with the staff that we have, mainly because I can see the leadership and the direction that you can help guide them through that. But if we're going to come to an agreement on something, we can look at whatever was already proposed. We can somewhat, fix it up a little bit or whatever the point is. But we need to get it done. We need to stop this whole, we're going to get it started and then nothing happens. So that's to her point. Commissioner McCoy.
I'm sorry. To that point, I think that sometimes what happens is that each commissioner perhaps we get protective over our districts and forget that we have a whole big map out there. And, another thing too is planning services know a lot about what's going on, what we can develop in our city. More importantly, what should be developed and what shouldn't be developed. And I think that having an ABC education on that would be fantastic if we had a workshop on, do we know our city? And I know that we do, and I know that we look at our maps, I know that we know our people, but as far as what the vision is, what part do you want to see developed? Get the dadgum map, because I think it makes us less possessive of a district and can engage in the vision. Listen, Deltona Boulevard's not my district, right? But however, it is our city's district, and Maritza is correct in the fact that we have been trying to get that fixed forever.
You said the magic word, fix.
Yeah.
Not even develop.
Yeah, fixed. And we have to do that, and I think that we should throw all of our collective weight behind seeing that through because it benefits us all. It's one of the areas in town that we can gather, right, as a community, and it really does need to be addressed, and I think that we need to support our commissioner for that district because it behooves all of us. And I think that we need to sit down with our planning department. Our planning department, listen, I have all confidence in Joe Ruiz. When he was first moving up, right, and he took over, I'm like, oh, he's a kid, Of course, everybody looks young to me, right? Right. But I'm going to tell you something. The maturity and strength and leadership that he shows in that department and his vision for our city, he is very focused on making us better. And I think that we need to listen to our planning department and our city manager, right, as far as that goes. Where can we economically develop? And I think that we have to get out of that vision that our district is the most important. Every district is the most important, and I'm guilty of that. I'm going to be looking out for Normandy Boulevard, dadgummit. And so, with that being said, I totally agree, and I think that in putting aside personalities like that, and I think that that's a lot of what happens is we get protective. We think there's not going to be funding for our district or whatever, right, and lose sight sometimes of the overall goal. So I'm willing to be less stringent in that way. I have also concerns regarding, I need to find out where we are with the JPA, because we're talking about developing out in that district. There are two pending issues out there with the way that Osteen East and West are going to be developed, and we move out there, if we're moving our people out there, because we've had some pretty controversial development topics out in that area, and something that I will fight for forever is Lakeshore Drive all the way out to 417, because I know that there is a development in lawsuit right now that has been designated as a scenic highway out there. There is 4D Ranch out there, preservation. It is the scenic drive that we have, because on either side you go and there's crazy development and it's an oasis. And I think that we need to revisit that and what our partnership is or what we have influence on as far as the JPA, because that's just been sitting on the shelf. I don't know where we're at with that, but if we're talking about strategic planning, we need to revisit that also. We also need for our residents, and I need to understand further about our cup, because I understand we're talking about moving out, we have more drinking water. Some of the thoughts are is that, oh my God, we don't have enough drinking water. That's not true. We do have enough drinking water, right? But we are going to have to expand in order to meet our cup. And not only that, there's great concerns about water quality. And I understand we're working on that. And rolling all of this up here and involving everybody is, we're going to have to bring our public along with us. We have a small section of our residents that show up, right, that really hold our feet to the fire, and it's frustrating sometimes because it seems like we can't do enough right sometimes. It seems like that all that's brought up are our missteps or what's been done in the past, and it chains us to the past instead of allowing us to move towards the future. And so with the things that you're talking about, I'm happy to hear that we will have residents in that visioning. I'm happy that we are being more transparent in that respect. But those are the couple things that I would like to see addressed and put to bed, like Commissioner Avila Vasquez talks about. If we can just see the completion of these, because there's a real frustration there that we can start 10 projects but not complete. If we can complete that area, if we can put our focus and our energy into that CRA area and start talking about how to improve. I know that we're doing it behind the scenes, but we need to be more resident facing, and we've not been real successful at that, and I just think that it's really imperative. I think it'll give us some breathing space, and I know that our PIO is doing a great job of doing that, right? But we need to get more information out there quicker. We need to take some of these insecurities, I think we need to take these insecurities serious, because our community has been through some really traumatic crap over the last few years. If you go back to the area, and I'm not trying to drag the past, we're moving forward, and I understand that. There's been some traumatic things happen to both the commission and our residents and our staff. We've undergone some crazy changes. We've undergone some political unrest. We undergo infighting between the commissioners, and I think that we've ironed all of that out, the interpersonal stuff, but we just really need to get more and more and more information out there so that we can have breathing room to work, because we spent a lot of time so busy, and we talked about this today. I talked about it with Mr. Carl today. We are so busy working in our business and undoing stuff that we've not had ample opportunity to work on it, and that's where we are now. We're trying to dig out from the in and on to the on, and one of the ways that Commissioner Avila Vasquez talked about is completion. Somebody being able to see something completed, seeing the progress, our community knowing every single week what roads you're working on, what progress is coming, and what you're doing. And we need to be adamant about that happening, because the more information we get out there, the less chance of disinformation getting out there, because nature abhors a vacuum. So I just really want us to be, as we're talking about improving, I really want us to be on those things. So that was a lot, but I'm done. So thank you.
Commissioner Jody Lee. Thank you, Commissioner Luker.
I want to see everybody, it would be nice to see everybody working together too. I mean, not one person here can get jobs done. Nobody can take credit for one thing. It takes us all to do it. And anybody runs around saying, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, it takes us all. And I want the residents to be involved. Of course, we all know there's some residents, don't make a difference. You can do whatever you want. They're going to twist the facts anyway. I mean, we're talking about it, and I stressed it 5 times today at this meeting about the millage rate going down, the budget going down, the whole thing here. But there's still people in the community crying and making up stories. So I like to see it like this. I like to see more community involvement. I'm glad things are coming together. And another thing, when you're adding streets, can you check into Lake Helen Olstein? I know that's this county road, but Elkham and Lake Helen, it turns into a swamp right there, and you need a boat to get through that intersection when it rains. So I forgot to mention that one earlier, because everybody here knows that one's pretty bad. I'm sorry, Mr. Burbank, but I was waiting for you to say something about it, because I think it's your district, but I think you were sleeping over there, so I don't want to pick on you. I know it's getting older. You're getting older and asleep.
We've had a conversation with the county engineer and with Glenn, and we're looking at it.
Well, stop doing this go it alone thing. You have to work together with the rest of us.
Just, Mayor, may I?
Go ahead,
just to
Commissioner
give you
Rivera.
something good news, I went to an event at the Edgewater condo, and you have no idea the people that came to me, because they were happy to see the grass growing on the other side of the Little Red Schoolhouse. They said, oh, wow, we were so happy. They're cutting the grass now. It's coming back up. And it's just a little spot. But just that they're seeing that greenery coming back up is excitement for them. And it goes back to what Commissioner McCool was saying. When they see progress, when they see something it's being completed and being done, it makes them feel good that something is getting done. And this is just a piece of grass, not a piece, but a big piece of property growing the grass back up again. So yes, they appreciate when they see something is being done.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Comments? Yes? Okay, we'll move over to city manager comments.
I really have, I think I've made a lot of comments today. I think the one key thing for all of us is we can get a lot done together, and we can be proud of what we do, but I think all of you have recognized one thing: it takes everybody being part of it, not just one person. No one person can do anything. I can't do anything without support. You can't do it without support. So if there's anything to take away, is we have to work together to make sure we can get this city where we want it to be, the way we want it to be, and do it as efficiently as we can. And we're going to work on the efficiency side. Like I've indicated, there's staffing. We're probably going to have to add to this later as we get into the year. But we're committed to get the job done. And thank you for your time.
Meeting's adjourned.